To be able to discuss AI today, we need to dig around our history and open several discussions.
I think some of the other AI paradigms that have been there historically in the AI field are going to rise to the occasion and alongside neural networks push AI forward in the next stages. So symbolic AI, got a bad rap because in the 70s and 80s, under the guise of GoFi, good old-fashioned AI systems, symbolic reasoning-based AI systems were often used based on like hand-coded knowledge bases. You have projects like Psych where just all these people are typing in huge amounts of logical relations trying to represent common sense knowledge, and then they're reasoned on symbolically.
Jensen and his co-founders, they invented this processor, called the GPU. Now, the first one was actually in the 90s, but I think the first one or two didn't do as well commercially. This was the really successful one here in 2000, the GeForce 256. And this really launched the modern era of gaming, which incredibly led to the modern era of AI.
There has been a lot of recent work trying to model, so basically predict side effects coming from drug-drug interactions. And one approach is to build a graph, so a big network of proteins and drugs, and which proteins are targeted by which drugs, and which drugs, drug-drug interactions are known, and try to predict the missing links.
I remember going into the data center at NVIDIA and standing in front of one of the most powerful machines ever designed by man. These machines these supercomputers turn researchers into superheroes, right? I mean, everything you can possibly imagine, from modeling the known universe to modeling Earth itself in a high fidelity way, predicting climate change, forecasting weather, being able to mimic human behavior as well as at the molecular level.
When you look at the milestones there, so from when the first coaxial cable was actually put through the Atlantic, like back in 1858, seems like a long time ago, of course, almost 200 years. But then from there to when we actually had the first 16 kilometers of cable from New York to Philadelphia, making possible for 240 simultaneously telephone calls.
On 4 September that year, Edison Direct Current Generating Station began supplying electricity to customers in the first district in New York. At first point, they had only 40 customers. There was a fear because of this innovation. Today, almost 90% of the world population has access to electric energy. We cannot think about our lives without it. It transformed our society. In last years, communities saying that AI is the new electricity. The speed of change will be dozens of times greater than with electricity adoption. They are saying that AI will bring us unbelievable power and new intelligence perspectives.
At its heart, AI is taking as many data points as we possibly can and trying to read those data points, trying to infer what the current situation is, and then trying to make predictive analysis of what that might mean for the future. And then using this amazing technology, using all of this data, using this view it gives us into what is happening in the world and what might happen next, to influence business and society in a more positive way.
I think that the pandemic has actually forced a lot of companies to really start investing into digitalization. And so that itself has actually been a very, very good thing overall for the AI industry.
With industry and most powerful AI computing platform, and for intelligent transformation of the industry, we provide you with a different level of the product and the solution.
So we've seen recent advances in molecule generation, so using datasets of molecules to generate new molecules, and molecule property prediction, which is also a supervised learning task.
Artificial intelligence assumes a more central role in countless aspects of business and society that has a need for responsible use. Not just any use, but responsible use. Every day, AI is being used to make life-altering decisions. You see it now. Early detection, diagnosis of diseases, identifying strokes, deadly viruses in the age of COVID.
you can see the same pattern everywhere. People want to not only know about AI, but know how they can apply artificial intelligence. And this is really important, and we see it a lot. And that's why I think there's a big need for education. So whether is it from a technical perspective, so people want to apply artificial intelligence, write algorithms, play around with data, or whether it's from a business perspective, so decision makers, business leaders need to also understand what AI can do for their business, how they can help improve maybe sales or efficiency or whatever.
We use all sorts of AIs, like one that recommends music, one that does search, one that tries to give voice control to our phone. But these have no understanding of what each other are doing. There's not like an overarching intelligent assistant governing all of our internet interactions. Things like Google Assistant and Siri are very far from that now.
Artificial intelligence is being used to improve supply chains around the world.
And I think AI is essentially a manifestation of us as humans, because algorithms are programmed and reflect our values. So I think it's correct to be anxious. I think it's correct to think about these things. But ultimately, I'm very positive about AI because I'm positive about the human race, and I think that if we do our jobs well, that we should be able to create AI and create algorithms that can benefit humanity and work for us and improve our lives.
For us, AI is nothing without data. So behind every successful AI project, there's a successful data project.
The vision of our work is that currently the existing methods, most of the existing methods, they have two limitations. And the first, they are limited to extremely small 3D point clouds. For example, like the point net, they usually divide their whole room into several small blocks. For example, they're 1 meter by 1 meter blocks with 4,000 points.
It's been like 4 years now. The adoption in AI or even the development of a lot of these initiatives and programs are really active nowadays in Nepal.
We use AI to make patient-specific prediction and finite element simulation to make prediction of the spreading of the COVID inside the lung when they're already there, and how to avoid the quickly spreading during the days, during the hours.
You can upload a huge number of data and it can predict the scenario, what you are looking for.
With the adoption of the strategy for the development of artificial intelligence, Serbia became the first country in Southeast Europe and the 26th country in the world to recognize the importance and potential of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is without a doubt one of the greatest horizontal potential of ICT sector.
This is Selene. Selene is the computer that is one of the 4 or 5 supercomputers that sits in NVIDIA's headquarters. This is our supercomputer. This is the 7th fastest in the world. It's the fastest industrial-owned supercomputer in the United States.
The next step is going to be the artificial general intelligence revolution, which is where we're going to see AIs that aren't just carrying out highly specific functions, but you're going to have AIs that are able to understand the whole coordinated complex system and orchestrate narrow AIs and other narrow automated systems doing highly specific things.
If we go further up and the application enablement and mind sport, a series and tools that provided to help you to develop your own AI application.
Machine learning can help. So we can design this as a supervised learning task. So we can take existing datasets of drug pairs and we can do a binary prediction.
We see a lot of differences in learning between us and our AI systems. The real question is, do we need to replicate human intelligence or to build some new forms of intelligence?
We imagine that we'll be fully automating a lot of the jobs of today. But actually, like, there's not a great reason to automate the stuff that human beings are really good at, love to do, and like generate specialized expertise to doing.
In the area of medical and elder care robotics. So we're looking at collaboration with folks from the robotic space and the medical space to create, very sophisticated robots which will interact with the elderly people and patients in the hospital or nursing home setting.
We have to reinvent business. AI has to be the core of that business. We are seeing that AI is now, as I mentioned, in CAT scans, in X-rays, in hospitals.
The bigger question is how AI can help drug development, like the whole pipeline. And there's a lot of ways in which it can help. But I guess the main point, the main aim is something that reduces cost or time. Because drug development, the whole pipeline takes a lot of years, so around 10 years, and it takes tens, hundreds of millions to develop. But if we could use machine learning to, for example, shorten the time it takes to find an initial good molecule, so an initial good drug, by looking through millions of registered, already recorded molecules and their activities, that would already make the time frame shorter.
From the other side, one of the biggest, let's say, drivers for AI is generally the 5G and Wi-Fi 6, with the technology that came up a few years only ago. So we are speaking today by some, let's say, forecasts between 16 and 26% of national GDP growth based on AI in 2030. So this is amazing numbers. And this will only happen if generally on the national level, on the European level and worldwide level, society will start to accept AI as general purpose technology.
We believe that the future AI systems should be able to understand the 3D world like we human beings.
Will we have a latency close to zero in 5 to 6 years?
Yeah, I think like AI on the edge might bring us there, because as long as we still depend on services running on some data center on the cloud, latency will be in place. So I think AI on the edge might bring this latency close to zero.
Implementation of AI will probably change the way how we work, how we learn, how we live, and but it will create very new jobs.
The impact of algorithmic economy based on AI machine learning will be transformative for the future of work.
I expect something interesting from AI, from also that's going to support education, finances, every other field. I think that's one of our responsibilities, right? To encourage other people to get to know about technology, to get closer to digital work.
I'm inviting everybody to try AI, and they will be amazed how AI can bring some new quality and benefits in their everyday life.